Going to introduce Bev now as a speaker. Bev Forrester is the co-founder of the Room 217 Foundation in Port Perry, and sorry, I'll start again, sorry. Bev Forrester is a co-founder of the Room 217 Foundation in Port Perry and its executive director. She's an experienced performer, songwriter, and music educator. Bev has taught music in the Durham District School Board, as well as her private studio, and has been the executive director of the Ontario Vocal Festival and director of music in several churches. Bev's presentation this morning is titled "The Power of Music to Make Meaningful Changes in Health and Well-Being." So welcome, Bev, and go ahead.
Thanks so much, Duncan. Good morning, everyone, and I'm happy to be with you today. This morning, I want to share with you how music accompanies us through our lives and maybe a pathway to finding preserved identities, completing relationships in a healthy way, keeping our brains primed, and engaging with the world around us. For some of you, you may have experienced already some of what we're talking about today. And for others of you, leveraging music for health and wellness may be a whole new idea. In any event, what we know is that music is linked to our stories and cross-coded into life passages. Let's think about some of the ways that this can happen. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to kind of, hopefully, I want to make sure that those of you who are not on Zoom can see this. Just one sec, I'm going to do that one more time. Okay. Can everybody see that all right?
Yeah, it's okay from here in the hall. Carry on.
Good. And we can see it fine online. Whoops, almost. There, we see it online fine too.
There we go. Okay, all good?
Yep, we're good.
Fantastic. So let's just, I'm going to just do this sort of like musical journey. So I'm going to show a slide and play some music, and you don't need to respond out loud. I just want you to be sort of thinking about what you're hearing and what you're seeing. Okay, so here we go. take you back? Did it trigger a memory for you, or bring a smile to your face, or tears to your eyes? One of the powerful things about music is that it reaches into every part of the human experience. And there was one experience for me that's left a deep impression. My dad was dying, and my brothers and sisters and mom were around his bedside, and we sang the songs Dad loved. And he tried to sing along with us. Even though he was subcutaneously morphined, Dad was singing with us. And this was 20 years ago now, in room 217 at the Uxbridge Cottage Hospital, about an hour northeast of Toronto. I left that last night with Dad, wondering, what do other caregivers do? Do they know about the power of music? Do they have musical tools and strategies they can use to make life better for themselves and for others? Several years after that, my husband and I began the Room 217 Foundation, a social enterprise dedicated to improving the care experience with music. And these very questions still continue to drive our mission. In the short time we have together this morning, I thought we'd maybe divide it into these three sections. I want to share with you, what the Room 217 Foundation is and the impact we're having, as well as explore together some of the meaningful changes music can make for health and well-being. Clearly, 45 minutes isn't going to, we're just going to scratch the surface, but I'm hoping this will, inspire you. And then I'd like to leave you with some music care strategies, tools you can use in your own life starting today. So let's begin. After my dad died, I made some research-informed palliative care albums. What I mean by research-informed was just, what are the sounds that are helpful to people who are in their end stages of living? What would match the space? What's already being done? What could I do that would contribute? So using familiar music, we've now actually created 24 of these albums, but that's what we started with. And in those years, I visited every provincial Hospice Palliative Care Canada conference that was in Canada, sharing with caregivers the power of music, learning more and more myself. In fact, about 10 years ago, I completed a master's in music and health at the University of Toronto, all while working here at the Room 217 Foundation. There's this huge need for using music within a more relational approach to care, particularly with older adults. We've in our work, we've really focused on the needs with older adults and frail elderly. Not saying that we're not doing stuff with youth, but that's where we've focused our resources because of the huge need where human care is so desperately needed. There's lots of reasons why music is a great fit, and these are some of them: an aging population, a dementia epidemic. I mean, that's, that was sort of in the 2000s. We know that, almost everyone, not everyone, but almost everyone living in a long-term care home lives with some sort of cognitive impairment. Certainly person-centered care is the desire of care, although the pandemic has certainly set us back into a more medical model, that's for sure. But of course, we really want this more person-centered relational model of care. The government's been shifting care back into the community, back into homes, back into community hubs. Certainly we know that in mental health, the risk of mental health issues and disease actually increases after 65, mostly due to loss and isolation. And there's a huge prevalence of suicide post-65, particularly in men. And of course, the pandemic recovery, we're still recovering. Care spaces that we're working with, they're only operating at 60 to 70% staffing capacity. So there's a huge need to fill some of those gaps. And we believe music can do some of that filling, meeting the needs. So with the Room 217 Foundation, we've created an approach to care. It's not a practice, it's not a scope of practice, it's an approach that anyone can use with whatever scope of practice you find yourselves in. It's the intentional use of music, then, by anybody to improve health and well-being. And our goal is to really integrate it into care and caregiving contexts. The bullseye would be integrating it into people's care plans so that music becomes an absolute primary option of care. This is what some of the faces of music care looks like. You can sort of see here's a harp therapist, a music therapist, just straight music listening, music making and playing, music making using technology. This gentleman is actually quadriplegic, and he's making music using this virtual music instrument. By just the blinking of the eyes generates the sound. Or community music, where people come and share music in care spaces, or having therapeutic drum circles, or just social drum circles where you're engaged with others, or music around the bedside by these care professionals, what we call just musicking. And then, as we're going to find out in a couple of minutes, how music can actually support rehabilitation. So those are just some of the faces. We've developed this approach through several studies. Some of you might be interested in this. It wasn't something we just thought of overnight.
We cannot hear you, Bev. Not sure what happened.
I'm not sure what happened either. Does that?
Oh,
Let me stop.
okay.
Is that better? Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay, good. Some of you may be interested just in how we've developed this approach. It's come through a number of studies. This particular study, which was done in 2012 to 14, we did in 55 long-term care homes, as well as Bridgepoint Health in Toronto, a 400-bed complex continuing care hospital, and developed what we call the 10 domains of music care delivery. I'm not going to focus on that today, but that is part of our conceptual construct. While we say everybody can use music, which is true, we can do it in various ways, and it can be delivered in different ways. And then in 2017 to 2020, the Ontario Trillium Foundation funded a study. We were in 3 long-term care homes in our catchment area in Durham-Kawartha, and then we sort of scaled it into 27 long-term care homes in Toronto, Hamilton, and Kitchener-Waterloo, and developed this music care integration framework. So it's really important for us that whatever we're doing comes from an evidence base, and then we can apply it a little bit more systematically, and with more confidence that it's scaled over a number of places. So what we do is we've created music care products. Each of them are designed with a musical and therapeutic value and end game in mind. For example, these 24 albums have been created for palliative and end-of-life care. They're structured like a song I played before, the Elton John song, Your Song. That would be probably how you hear it, about the speed. In the palliative care albums, these 24, we slow it down to 60 beats per minute. So it's designed that way, and it's very simple. If you clock me on your watch, tick, 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 tick. We do it about 60 beats per minute. The song shape and melody, etc., stays the same, but we slow it down to kind of match what's happening in the space when somebody is imminently dying. We've created some videos using this music, hour-long videos with beautiful pastoral scenes and animate objects. This product is used more for reminiscence in snoozling rooms, which are stimulating rooms, and can be used in hospices as well. These conversation cards are meant for one-to-one visits. If you want to share about music with someone and have conversations, they're beautiful images, and then prompt questions all around music that can really engage people in meaningful conversation. And then this product down here, this is called Pathways, and it's for dementia care. There's 13 episodes that have been designed especially for people living with cognitive impairment. to engage them, in activity, and we have a singing host who facilitates these programs. It's a beautiful program. All of this during the pandemic, we actually put onto an app which you can use anywhere. It's sort of at your pocket, or in your pocket, all of this music, and you can make customized, personalized programs using our music on this app. It's called MusiCare Connect, and you can get it from the Google Play Store or Apple Music. Another thing that we do, so we don't just make products, we also do learning programs. That's my background. I'm a music educator, and it makes a lot of sense that we be involved in helping people understand more about music, doing talks even like today, where we're engaging folks in the community around the power of music. We have 8 core programs. We just held our 17th conference in Vancouver in November. We've held them right across the country and several in the United Kingdom as well. We have master classes for some of our certified folks. We have a free resource page on our website, it's actually resource pages. So if you're really interested in this and you want to sort of learn more, take a visit to our MusiCare resource page right on our website, musiccare.org. We have skills days. For example, each year we go to Mohawk College in Hamilton and do a skills day for their rec therapists that are in training. We've done various skills days across the country for hospices and their volunteers. So they're really practical training days to help people learn musical skills that they can integrate just day by day. We have a standardized training program, 52-hour training program. And then we do things like I'm doing today with you, speaking in community events, speaking in academic settings, at various places. We do a lot of conference speaking. A couple of years ago, we started the Virtual Learning Studio. Even with all of this wonderful stuff, we still wanted to go deeper and give people real practical tools. So the Virtual Learning Studio, I think currently we have 11 courses, but things like using bells for care, handbells, using ukulele for care, music and the aging brain, music and the developing brain, a little more research focused. But these are more in-depth courses you can take at your own pace, and they're on our website. You can access them there. And then every month we do a free webinar. In fact, tomorrow is our last webinar for 2022. And we have a nurse from the Ottawa Hospital. You may have seen her on television. She's called the Singing Nurse. She took her guitar into the ICU unit during COVID. And she's going to be sharing her perspective on music and care as a nurse. So if you're really interested today in what I'm talking about and you want more of it, you can join us tomorrow at 3:30. It's free. You just go in and sign up on our website and you'll get a Zoom link. So lots of opportunities for learning. And what we've been developing over the past 5 years is a certification program, and we've just launched that this year. The individual certification, again, it's people who have taken our full training and then they do a few more assessments and they can become an advocate. Some of the types of people that become individually certified are rec therapists, teachers, family caregivers, activationists. We have somebody right now who runs a ballet school who's becoming certified, and literally they're across the country. Folks that are becoming certified. The key really is that you already have a scope of practice, because this is a continuing education program. When you become MusiCare certified, it's not like a professional designation, it's a continuing education piece. So some of you might be interested in either taking the training and or becoming an advocate. Maybe you volunteer somewhere and you'd like more training on how to integrate music. This would be the program. And we've just started, this one's a big one. We've been working at this for years, and we just launched it in September. And we have 2 sites here in Ontario and 2 sites in BC working at becoming certified as an organization. There are early adopters, and it's quite a wonderful program. It's really like a quality improvement program where music then becomes embedded in the processes and the toolkits and all the framework of an organization. We truly believe it is a pathway to pandemic recovery as it focuses on quality of life and relational care. So that's our work. I want to now hop into the next part of this presentation where we can really look at, and some of this, all of this is really evidence-based in the science. I won't necessarily show you all the studies, but it comes from that. And it's basically, I want to share with you 4 ways how music can actually help make changes to our health. So let's take a look. First of all, and I think we've known this since we were children, that music improves our memory. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. How many of you learned your alphabet that way? How many of you still go back to identify letters and that sort of thing using that? That's the sort of musical mnemonic that will help us remember. Or cueing behaviors, teachers use this in schools all the time. Tidy up, tidy up, tidy up, time. It's sort of cueing a behavior, but it helps us remember what we're supposed to do. And as well, through this memory link, it's such a strong link with music. In a way, it helps to preserve identity when our memories get lost. And I want to talk about that. Now, when we were playing the music at the beginning of this session today, I played a number of songs with pictures, and maybe music acted as a trigger for you. And if it did, if it took you back to a time, a place, a smell, an event, a relationship, then what music was doing was actually helping your neural pathways, your brain pathways, to regroup. And in this grouping, what happens is the associations that are made with the events and the people and the places and the feelings in our life. And if I was to open this up, I bet you we would hear some great stories about some of those memories. Well, neuroscience tells us that music is stored in multiple places in our brains. So you can see here, some of this may not necessarily make sense to you, but this is how neuroscientists look at it. So for example, your hippocampus, which is basically your memory gatekeeper, it's involved in music memories, experience, and contexts, and tagging those memories. The corpus callosum, that's that sort of band in the middle between the 2 hemispheres that connects both sides of the brain. The motor cortex, involved in movement, if we're dancing or playing an instrument. The prefrontal cortex, which controls our impulses and our behaviors and decision making and executive function. All of these places in our brain, something goes on with music. The auditory cortex is where we do all of our sound perception. The visual cortex, if you're reading music or even looking at dance moves, you're using that area of your brain. What's so incredible about music, and it's really unlike anything else, is that it is stored right across the brain. We call it cross-hemispheric, where it's connecting through both sides of the brain. And this is really, really a powerful thing when we have deficits from disease or injury or any kind of an episode. What it means is that the musical memory may not be completely lost. And I'm going to show you in the next couple of minutes how we can leverage the various musical systems to create even new neural pathways, which is really a cool concept when you're thinking about memory loss. What it really means is if something in your neural pathways has been lost, it might not be in one area, it might not be lost in another. And so then if you've heard the term neuroplasticity, where it really means your brain is remaking the pathways, music can actually help reform those pathways and then become a way of accessing information. So one really good example of that is when somebody loses their speech. Say, if you remember Gabby Gifford, that senator that got shot, I think it was around 2011, the bullet took her the two language areas in the left side of her brain, took them right out. So she couldn't find her words, she couldn't retrieve her words. It was actually a neurologic music therapist who helped her through music find those words again. And she did it through the singing pathway. So the singing and the speaking pathways in the brain, there's separate pathways, there's separate mechanisms, yet they have some things in common. And when you can leverage those things in common, then it's almost like you find another way to get there. It would be like if, you know, you're going into a website and it says it's down, the website's down, but if you know how to get there another way through other links, you can actually get to the website. It's kind of like that. So this is really why, and you may have seen this before, someone with dementia may not be able to tell you what they had for lunch, but they could sing 4 verses of In the Bleak Midwinter, some obscure carol, right? Because that is still embedded in their memory. I want to play for you a video. It's about 5 minutes long. So what I want you to do, it's quite compelling. It's an interaction between a woman named Gladys Wilson, who's a resident in care, and Naomi Fiel, the founder of a therapy called validation therapy. And let's watch how music connects them and how it restores Gladys's preserved identity through how she's remembering it. She actually finds herself in this video. And I just also want to say, because when I saw this for the first time several years ago, I was just so moved. And I figured they had a relationship. I figured, you know, Naomi went to visit Gladys every day. In actual fact, this was their first meeting, and this is what happened.
When people are very old and deteriorated and no one enters their world and they're just sitting there, they will withdraw inward more and more. And their desperate need for connection is all now inside. And if a person is all alone, even if they're very, very deteriorated, there's a longing for this kind of closeness. Mrs. Wilson? Hello. You want me to sit? Can you see me good? Gladys Wilson is a wonderful example of a person who is in the phase of repetitive motion, where people use movements, repetitive movements, because they don't have any more speech or very little speech, but they have human needs that need to be expressed. You're crying. Crying, you have a tear right here in your face. You have a little pain. You don't want me to touch you. You're very sad. Can you see me? Is it scary? Are you afraid? And if this person sits with their eyes closed, rocking back and forth, and maybe there's a tear coming down, there's a need there. There's a little tear that's coming out. You feel it? You feel a little tear? If you gently use touch, and I touched Gladys Wilson for the fingertips right here on the cheek, is where the mother usually touches a child. If you touch an infant there, it looks up, and every cell remembers where it was touched by the mother. And often that person knows, even if they can't say a word at that moment, they won't talk, or they don't want to talk, but there's a communication. And that person is no longer alone. Can you let me in a little bit? You think? Just a little? You think I could be with you and Jesus for a minute? Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. I used music, because when speech is gone, music, especially with Gladys Wilson, it was religious music, because there's emotion tied to it and safety tied to it. So I used her old church songs. Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. What I did was, when she moved, I moved with her. And when I was singing, because she didn't sing with me, so I matched the intensity of my voice to the intensity of her movement. And pretty soon, for a split second, we became one person. Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. So at one point, when she got very quiet and very peaceful, and my voice became very quiet as hers and very peaceful, and my breathing slowed to her breathing, she pulled me to her, and I moved with her. And for her, at that moment, I believe I was a symbol of her mom. Can you open your eyes now? Do you see me? Feel safe and warm? Yeah? Can you sing with me? He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the mothers and the fathers. He's got the mothers and the fathers in his hands. He's got the mothers and the fathers in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. The breakthrough doesn't happen every time. The person will not always open their eyes and look at you. But if you keep trying and you keep centering yourself and really look at that person and really mirror their movements, maybe not this time, but the next time you come, you'll have a communication. You feel safe. You feel safe? Yeah. With Jesus? Yeah. And me?
That's a really powerful story and testament to what music can do to wake somebody up, help them find themselves again, and make interpersonal connections. There's so much more we could say about and discuss, I think, after that, but it's a beautiful, beautiful story that really does show us how music can feed into our memories and help us find our preserved selves. I'm going to just turn to the next one. The second way that music can make changes to our health would be to help us complete relationships. What do I mean by that, complete relationships? It's actually a task that researchers, particularly palliative doctors, have said needs to happen to have a healthy death, is that we need to complete relationships. And to do it in a healthy way requires several sentiments to be expressed. I love you, thank you, sentiments of forgiveness if there's unfinished business, and goodbye. And what better medium can help us than music? Music brings comfort. And the right song can help somebody get through the night who's having a tough time with pain or with just the existential issues that arise at end of life. Music can be used in what we call legacy work, like creating a memorial, a song. Kind of like what I want to share right now. This is a song written by a music therapy colleague of mine. And I'll give you the background to the song. Peter, I have permission to use this. Peter was a 63-year-old male dying of prostate cancer who'd battled alcoholism for a large part of his adult life. He was divorced and estranged from his only daughter. 3 years prior to his admission into the palliative unit, Peter committed himself to change the direction of his life and joined AA and became sober. Around the same time, Peter decided to start going to church in an attempt to find his true purpose for being in the world. He made new friends at the church and felt he was making a fresh start. So what his music therapist helped him to do And this was to complete the relationship with these new friends because Peter knew he was dying, and so did they. But she helped him write this song, and it goes like this. And I should say they sang it to the friends too. My friend, the music therapist, helped Peter sing it to his friends. All my bags are packed, I'm afraid it's time to go. I feel so afraid to leave all alone. I hope I'll encounter a better place on the other side. What have I done to leave my mark? Who will remember me when I'm dead? These questions burn and give me no peace of mind. So goodbye, Jill, Betty, and Scott. Thank you for all the kindness you've shown. You are the best 3 friends a person could ever know. And I'm leaving on a jet plane. Please think of me sometime again. I know I'll think of you. It's funny how fast time really goes. I thought I'd have more, but the news sadly shows the final hours are only a few days away. I'll miss the sunset and the smell of the rose and all the pretty faces I know. I just don't know how to leave this life. So goodbye, Jill, Betty, and Scott. I thank you for all the kindness you've shown. You are the best 3 friends a person could ever know. And I'm leaving on a jet plane. Please think of me sometime again. I know I'll think of you. So a really great way to leave not only a legacy piece for his friends, but to actually complete their relationship in a positive, healthy way. Even in nearing imminent end of life. Beautiful, beautiful way that music can help us do that. Music can keep us moving. Maybe you thought this would be the obvious one I'd talk about today, because it really is obvious. One of the most nourishing things we can do for our brains is dance. It's that combination of music and movement. Music can really help us move as we age to maintain physical strength and mobility, maintain posture, coordination, muscle tone, good breathing. Music can help us exercise, improve our performance. Maybe we're runners or bikers or swimmers. Music is really good at just improving performance in those areas. And it certainly gives us the background if we dance, no matter the kind of dance it is. One of the reasons then, because music really does help us move, it then can be extremely helpful for use in rehabilitation. Mostly it's the same principle of the dance, because the power of rhythm in our systems. What rhythm does is it primes the brain. I'll say that again, it primes the brain. Like if you've ever been at an old well, when I was a kid, one of the farms right next door to us still pumped water. And I remember learning how to have to prime that and to actually get it working and going and getting the energy going. That's exactly what rhythm does in our brains. So the first thing is keep moving, keep dancing, keep using music to move to in your exercises. Because there's a real symbiotic relationship between music, and particularly rhythm, and brain function. Now, but I want to actually show you something super cool. And again, this could be a whole talk just on its own, but this is an application of what I mean by this in rehabilitation. You're going to meet in this video a man named Mark, who's been in an accident, and he learns to walk again through the use of what we call rhythmic auditory stimulation. Again, it's an intervention, evidence-based intervention that's been developed by neurological music therapists. And I think we're watching Mark actually from a rehab hospital in Boston. So take a look at what happens.
straight.
Oh, good try.
That was awesome.
Yeah, do it again.
Yeah, there you go. Good, one more. Awesome.
Oh, wait a minute. Whoa.
Yeah, get your balance.
Yeah.
Another amazing testament to the power of rhythm, to help people sort of regain that kind of coordination and balance. Again, it doesn't happen every time, but isn't that a great story? And this has huge implications for people living with Parkinson's, and a lot of times we create playlists so that folks living with Parkinson's can walk and have that kind of priming effect to help them get started often. So super great implications there for rehabilitation, and more just a much more improved quality of life for sure. Now, whoops, I'm gonna do that again. I didn't. Okay, that's good. The fourth and final thing I want to share with you today is about music helping us to engage. And this is really simple, and I'm going to just give you a couple of really, strategies you could start today. But look, we know that isolation, loneliness, and depression can be real risk factors for older adults. They just are, and I think the pandemic only served to, for all of us, but particularly for older adults, it's been really quite challenging. Also, when we get older, we begin to face more losses and transitions, and some people's response to that is withdrawal and just plain checking out. Music can really help to mitigate these risk factors, because music essentially is a social phenomenon. We sing, we dance, we share stories, we go to concerts together. Music calls us into relationship with others, into relationship with the beauty around us, and into relationship with the world around us. So, 3 engagement strategies I want to share with you, and then a couple of other strategies just from room 217. So the first is to share a meaningful song. This one is, you kind of can't have anything easier than this. You don't need really any tools, although clearly our conversation cards will help you with that. But you can just do this by asking somebody, what's a song that's been really significant to you in your life? And undoubtedly people will have a song. And if they don't, you can say, well, was there something when you were younger, when you were a child? Say before the age of 10, was there a song you remember? And what happens as soon as they remember that song and share it, the story, their narrative, their own journeys come out, and you get to know each other, and then all of a sudden people are engaging with one another, right? And often you can share a meaningful song back, and you have this conversation. So that's a really great starting point, and again, you can do it today. Another strategy that is really easy is to sing one song. Now, some of you may say, not a chance. I don't sing. I'm not a singer. My kids told me to stop stop. I mean, I totally understand that. So if it's not sing one song, then hum one song. You can hum. But the whole concept of one song is kind of a neat one, especially if you're not very confident with your voice. Pick a song or a part of a song that you're good at, like one that you'd sing in the shower or in the car with nobody around, and you'd be okay with it. And remember, we're not like Simon Cowell isn't watching. This is just something you're gonna do, right? You're gonna sing a song. I really like this song. If you don't have an idea, I'll give you an idea. It could be this one. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. You can even just do that much of the song, right? You don't even have to finish, and that's only one part, that's only 1/3 of the song structure, and I only gave you half of that part. That's all you really need. Because when we sing like that, it'll help us get through. I mean, look, Snow White did it, whistle while you work, right? But it makes things more human, more fun, more engaging. It'll pass the time in a more pleasant sort of way. In fact, in some of the research we've done, particularly around our dementia program, because we always do the research pre and post the program, we had folks just saying it was just really fun, and that's kind of what, like, that's a good thing to, if we want to live healthy lives, and be well, we want to enjoy and have pleasure and have some fun. So singing that one song can give you that kind of pleasure. And frankly, if you're going to use it to engage with somebody, even better. I often in our training in particularly long-term care facilities, when we teach the one song strategy, you take a song like Lean on Me. It's awesome because you can make it really upbeat and fun the way it was meant to be, sort of originally, almost dancing to it. And if people are in wheelchairs, you can dance with them in the wheelchair. It's an engaging kind of song. Now, if somebody's having a bad day and you want to engage with them, you can come and sit alongside them. Maybe, put your hand on their shoulder. Lean on me when you're not strong, like maybe even today, what's going on in your life? That kind of thing where you can take the song and it starts the engagement piece. Or even engaging with somebody like we were just talking about in relationship completion, end of life, right when somebody's really, maybe even like my dad, kind of morphined or maybe even in a coma. And you could still lean on me. Lean on me. You can just take that little phrase and you're singing your one song because that's the one you're confident with and engaging with somebody. So there's another idea. Sing or hum one song. Another great idea is to create a soundscape. Now this, I don't know if any of you ever saw Stomp. It used sort of industrial kind of cultural on the street, like garbage can lids to create rhythm and music, and what I would call a soundscape. Sort of had this urban kind of cool soundscape. When I taught, I used to do it with our primary students with kitchen objects, with bowls and spoons and that sort of thing. I did it with my own kids. But because soundscapes can really change up what we're kind of listening to and listening for. I'm going to just get off of this so you can see me a little more fulsomely here. Because I brought, and maybe some of you have seen bowls like this. There's different kinds of bowls you can use. There's crystal bowls. This one happens to be a metal bowl, but thicker. But a lot of people use this kind of sound just for grounding, for their own personal wellness. They may have it in relationship with a meditation or that sort of thing. But that's great for self-care. I guess I'm looking at engaging with others And maybe in engagement, you give you take turns doing this sort of thing. And it's if you're not really, you sort of say, well, I don't play an instrument. I've never learned to play anything. And, that kind of thing doesn't take a tremendous amount of skill or learning. And you just have to sort of figure out how to make it turn with your wrist and generate the sound. Or this is one of my favorite instruments for musical engagement. It's called a kalimba. It's an African instrument, although in Africa it would be made probably with a gourd, with metal strips. But this one I actually bought here in Canada, so it's not as authentic. But I just want you to know that's where it comes from. But listen to this. That beautiful sound. And you can make melodies with that, or you can it's so simple, you can just make this kind of ambient random sound and it sounds gorgeous. And I'll tell you where I used that one recently. My mom, who's turning 90 this year, when she was 86, she had a bit of a scare one morning and she had to have her appendix out. Can you imagine, at 86? And so she was in the hospital for a bit, and of course we went to see her, and I brought this. And we were able to engage. She still wasn't super strong yet, but we were able to engage in music making together using this, because it could sit on her lap and she could just use her thumbs. So it was a great piece of engagement, and I think just changed up her soundscape, in that clinical space in the hospital. So, those are some ideas. There's lots of ways you can create soundscapes. Maybe some of you do it with round sound, surround sound. Maybe some of you have your own way of doing that. But creating soundscapes together is a great way to engage. I'm going to just share my screen again for these last couple of slides. So those are 3 strategies. You can start today, like right after we get off of this Zoom or this meeting. You could actually, if you want, you could start any of those to engage with someone else in music, which will bring them out of, or can help. It could be a pathway of bringing them out of loneliness or isolation or even depression. And just some ways Room 217 can help you. We have those online courses. Go to our website at musiccare.org and check it out. All of the learning is under the Learn program, and you can take deeper dives into each of them there. Maybe you want to become Music Care certified as an individual. If that interests you. It depends on what you're doing, but that might be something of interest. And I would encourage you to use the Connect app to make programs, especially if for your own sort of self-care, but also if you have loved ones that you're providing care for. This is a great, as I say, it's in your pocket at any moment. You can create, using all of our resources, you can create personalized programs. I want to end with a song, and then we'll open it up for questions, but I thought this would be a great song to end with. It's written by Murray McLaughlin. Murray was on, whoops, that's sort of covering it up. Whoops, hold on. That is covering his name up, and I'll move it. Okay. Murray was on our board for 6 years and has been such a great believer in music and care and all the work we've been doing at Room 217. And for our 10th anniversary, he wrote this song. And I love ending with this one because I think it's just such a testament to what life would be without music, but what life is with music and the pathway it provides. So I'm gonna end by singing the song together, and I hope it's a great way for us to end this morning as we've considered music. Without a song, without a melody, where would I be? Where would I be? How would I find my way back up again? When I'd lost a love, when I'd lost a friend. A song can find the words find a way when I can't find a way. Help me get back to where I was meant to be. Bring back a memory that was lost to me. I will find a way to live, and I will find a way to give, and I will give my love to you. I will find a way to live, and I will find a way to give, and I will give my love to you. Okay, so Russ, I'm happy to field any questions here. Very high level, skim through some things which could take us days to discuss actually, but hopefully something in that resonated with each one of you.
Turn it
Are there
over
some
to you,
questions?
John, although I do have a question.
Go ahead, Russ.
Bev, a very specific, oh, it was awesome. That was awesome. That was awesome. I'm, there's a fellow named Daniel, his last name slips my mind. He's a musician.
Leviton?
Which?
Dan Leviton?
No, I'm not sure. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I know him. He's part of a team I have on history stuff and the like, and he's a musical therapist. But anyway,
Oh, okay.
I have a 100-year-old mother in long-term care, and I'm wondering, where can I get a little box? I know how to create an audio file from anything you've got and get a little box that all my mother has to do is turn it on, push the button, and listen to music for a while and turn it off. Because she never has touched computers or any of that. She has trouble running her TV, and she's got some stages of dementia and like, but she has trouble with TV controls. They're too complex, and companies like Rogers won't give you a simple TV control.
No, it's interesting, Russ. There's a number of groups in not just in Canada but in the UK as well, and in Australia, who've created radio channels to make it really easy with specific music. And or exactly the kind of thing, like I've seen them where there's like they look like old-fashioned radios.
Yeah.
The challenge is the content, to be honest. It's how do you get the right content for your mom?
Yeah, like one thing to be obvious for my mother is I have some Ukrainian music on CD-ROMs and stuff. We're Ukrainians. And if I could push a button and listen to Ukrainian music for a while, I think it would be very helpful too. Everything else you're talking about would be really helpful as well.
Look on Amazon for there's, I can't recommend just one, but there's these, they kind of look like old-fashioned radios that are meant to have a button, right? Just one, like really easy use. But again, if you can get the right content on there, then it'll be extremely meaningful. A lot of places use Alexa, to be honest, and they'll put Alexa in the cupboard or something, and it's
an interesting idea.
The challenge with Alexa is then you're giving away all other personal information, right? Like it's just
it's listening to you too all the time.
Right.
Yeah, because that's kind of simple, like simple controls and simple boxes. And what I'd like to do is I've always wanted to bring her Ukrainian music, but I can't think of a simple enough device for her. So that's fine.
It's maybe more about leaving it with her, right?
Oh, I want to leave it with her. I can take something and play it for her in there. But to leave her something, she just punches the button, And she
Yeah.
listens
So
and-
I think you just make a playlist and maybe put it on a tablet is the best way right at the moment.
I think she would struggle with a tablet, but I
Oh,
don't
you'd
think
have
she
to
would
you'd
do it.
have to work with the caregivers to help her do that for sure.
And they've been helping her a bit with the TV, I'll have to agree, yeah. And
Yeah.
the interesting now, she's got a really good home. It's called Kipling Acres in Toronto.
Awesome
I
home.
don't-
Yeah.
I don't see anything about music stuff in there. Are you?
Oh yeah, we've done work there. But the challenge right now is Russ, like nothing's completely back to normal post
Well,
pandemic.
that's true. And there's.
No, I'm serious. Like all the rich enrichment that she would have
Yeah.
had prior to. So,
Yeah.
and
Agreed.
no, I mean they've got some great stuff. They had some great stuff happening. I'm not sure how much they're
Well, they
back
have good
up yet.
programs. Yeah,
Yeah,
they have good
yeah.
programs. I just scratch my head and say, I don't think I ever saw anything that was.
Yeah.
They brought people in to sing and stuff like that, which is great. Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can understand our mission even more, Russ.
Oh, no. I
Yeah.
resonates.
Totally understand the
With
mission.
our audience here, I think it resonates because I'm sure every last one of us has a relative or a friend or somebody who's struggling with the kind of issues you're talking about.
Yeah.
I have several. My mother is one of them, but I have several in the family and close friends. So,
Are there any
Yeah,
other
it's fascinating.
questions? Yeah,
Sorry? Okay.
I think
Any other
Art.
questions?
I think Art's raising his hand there.
Bev, what a wonderful presentation. It touched me deeply, especially the end. I lost my wife this year, but
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
I was curious as a Rotarian as well as a Provost member, how your organization is funded.
Yeah, good question. So we created the foundation as a social enterprise. So do you know what I mean by that?
Vaguely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I never knew what that was because in Canada. It's a fairly new term, sort of coming out around 2007-8 ish, when we were starting the foundation. So thankfully, we had somebody and a good lawyer who recommended this model. So basically, we are a not-for-profit corporation. So we're governed by a board of directors. Murray was one of them, but we're also a registered Canadian charity. And the reason we went this way is in those first couple of years when it was really just tucked under my own incorporated business, when Rob and I, like when I got started this, somebody gave me a $50,000 check and said, you got to keep going with this. Like, this is really important work. And I said, well, thank you, but we're not set up to give you a tax receipt. And then, we had some other donations like that. And we just thought, you know what, there's other people in this country interested in what we're doing. So that's why we went that route. I mean, clearly, if, we run as a not-for-profit business, so we use all of, invoicing, so we can actually sell our products and our educational services. And we feel that's very responsible too. One year we were at 47% of our own services in our operational budget, which is awesome. I'd love to be 50%. Pandemics hit us quite a bit harder. So we're not there. And then of course so our three main pipelines are, just with that background, would be our own sales of products and services, donations, and then we're eligible for some grants. We can't get tri-council funding because we're a community-based organization. We're not a hospital or connected to a university, although we have those relationships. We want to be a community-based organization. So does that answer your question?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I should also say not every social enterprise works that way. Social enterprise can work different ways. That's the model we chose with our lawyer helped us set up that way.
Thank you.
Great question.
Any questions here? John Sen, can you hear us? Are any questions from the audience?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. I'm just looking at about 30 faces here sitting there. If all of you gentlemen now wave, and Bev, if you look at the image, there's an image of a room. If all the guys wave at once, you can prove you're awake, guys. Wave to my phone over there. Maybe, yeah, the image is pretty small, so there are about 30
very
people
good.
in the room.
Hold on for a sec. Is this just an all-male Probus?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Hey, nobody told me that.
No, we kept
Oh,
it.
crap.
We keep it a secret.
You know
now.
what? I'm even more impressed. I am so impressed that you would want to go with this topic. Fantastic.
The other Probus clubs that we birthed are men and women. Okay, but we've been around for quite a while, so we haven't shifted to any new model.
Oh, good. Well, I hope this wasn't too soft or anything for you.
No, well, that's my
just great.
opinion. No,
I think it's probably where a lot of us are living, though, right?
so relevant.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of
Hey,
us,
we're all very sensitive, new age kind of people, you know, Bev. Come on.
Gotcha. Any questions from your end there?
One more, please, Bev.
Sure, Art. Yeah.
Art's getting his money's worth.
This presentation or one like it available on your website?
So we don't really record our presentations, but the webinars, I would just encourage you to go to our resource page, because all of our webinars we record and put them up kind of like a podcast, although there's visual. So if you're interested in this, we have 100 plus, 1 hour long talks. If you have a specific interest, all the way from vibroacoustic therapy, if you really love the science of it, to, medical assistance in dying and everything in between, right? Like just everything in between. So
and that's on your website.
it's on our website and that's free. You can go. But again, if you're really interested, every second Wednesday of every month, not June and July, but of 10 months of the year, we do free webinars. And you're more than welcome to hop on tomorrow at 3:30. As I say, this nurse who you might have seen on CTV TV, she's been dubbed the singing nurse, is going to talk about her experience in music and care. So, yeah, this is great. Any other questions from the room?
I asked the question because many of us have friends who are
Yes.
dealing with spouses with Alzheimer's and dementia, and this has been such a marvelous production and presentation that I know they'd be more than interested, because not everybody's caregivers are recommending music as a help.
Well, that's right, Art. And, we want to make this as widely, the music care as widely as possible. So just go ahead and recommend, they can go through the library. It's all done by theme. So dementia, end of life, mental health, that kind of thing. And just make your way through the library. That's all free.
Thank you very much.
Any questions from the guys in the room? Sort of like that. Hey, we managed to find one. And Bev, I'll let you know that the gentleman who's going to ask the question is himself a choral singer.
Oh, interesting.
Ta-da.
Okay.
Where do you find that certain kinds of music work better on people than other kinds of music? I mean, would certain kinds of music hasten death as a part of living? I'm not being flippant. There's certain kinds of music
We can't hear it, John.
I don't really want to know.
Hugh, tell you what, can you come up and talk into the, hang on just a minute, Russ, I'll get Hugh to come
Yeah,
up to
we
the
couldn't
camera.
hear it. Beth couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
Well, I got half of it. I wouldn't mind him coming up to the
Just
microphone.
ditch the mic or use the mic for the room, but then talk in front of the computer.
Hello.
Yes, Bev, my question was,
Still use the mic.
my question essentially was, do certain kinds of music help people as opposed to hinder? And I was very flippant in saying sometimes music might hasten death as opposed to life. But I know from my personal point of view, there's certain kinds of music I don't want my relatives to play for me if I was leaving this world. And but on the other hand, there's certain kinds of music where I would like to hear, and can I make a list to tell them, sort of thing. So my question is, do certain kinds of music help and other kinds of music hinder?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And sorry, what was your first name?
Your first name, she said.
Oh, Hugh.
Hugh, thanks so much for the question. What we know is the most effective, or the science, if you read the literature, they'll call it efficacy, right? The most effective music is preferential music, right? So it's the music you like. Clearly, that makes sense. The challenge in care situations is you don't always know what that music is, right? So, we do a lot of advocating for, in care settings, make sure when you're doing intake that you have a question like that. What's the kind of music? What are 10 preferential songs? At least it's a starting point for caregivers. Your idea of writing your songs down is exactly what I would have suggested. I would have said, if you're in doubt, make sure you write a list. I've seen lots of people's lists. It's not a bucket list. It's your music list that you want. If something happens. I want to talk about adverse effect because I think that's the whole truth, and I'm really glad you raised it because really that is the whole truth, and I wouldn't want to leave today thinking that just put on music and it's like a panacea, because sometimes music doesn't work, and I don't know, like, have you ever, even with a song you really love, like your own song, do you notice some days you want to turn it up, some days you want to turn it down, and some days you want to turn it off? Like what is that? It's probably just about our mood. It might be, it might just be it hits us a certain way one day and a different. So I mean, there's this sort of dynamic of music that's not quite like taking pharmaceuticals. Do you know what I mean? Like there's other factors of why it may or may not work. Two places where it's tricky, I'll tell you for sure, is one in mental health and addictions. You got it. My daughter is a music therapist, and she works in Hamilton actually, and in mental health, and that's one area where this can be really, really tricky because of the strong associations with music and behaviors and negative behaviors. So you got to be really careful what music or musics you choose. That's the first thing. Another one would be in dementia care. Just a heads up. I one day I was at the Toronto Rehab. They'd asked me to come just as a guest musician one day. Of course, I didn't know the people. And these are people with really extreme behaviors that have to go, they need help from highly skilled care professionals just to find what will really work to mitigate these behaviors. So I was into music. I didn't know these people. But with the crowd that I had in the room, I kind of started playing Satin Doll. This one. A sec. That song. And like it was fine for about the first 4 seconds. And then one of the women took one of the shakers we had and just started hitting other people. And like it wasn't like she was it's just it affected her. It had a negative memory or a painful memory attached to it, right? So that's the thing, like music can also trigger a painful response or an unpleasant response. And in a case like that, it can get tricky. The other thing I want to say about the question you asked, you probably didn't know I was going to say this much in response, but I think this is a really important thing. I've learned so much over the last decade. I mean, I'm a trained Western musician, European classical music, Western popular music. That's my space, right? That's what I know. But, there's a lot of people in our country that's not the music they listen to. That's not their preferential music. And that's just fine. I mean, there's musics all over the world and with various backgrounds and cultures. Sometimes we will link, this person's from this country, so they're going to like this music or this, not necessarily so. I've really learned a lot on this, that people's preferences, especially now too, with so much music available, off Spotify, and you can make playlists and that sort of thing. You can't even make those assumptions. You can maybe use it as a starting place, but, is there music that'll be harmful? Just when you're thinking about the list, clearly if somebody can tell you what their playlist is and you can write it down as you suggested, Hugh, that's great. But if you're kind of doing some guesswork and you're not sure, like let's say you're volunteering somewhere, that kind of thing, you might use ethnicity as a starting place. I mean, clearly, Russ, your mom's going to love those Ukrainian folk songs. Those are the songs of her childhood. And it's usually people are going back to those songs. But not always. Like sometimes people who have lived, who maybe have gotten into, East Indian music or Mid-Eastern music or South American music. There's some, or African music. And so I've learned a lot about this just in my own personal practice around this. Just not to make assumptions. we really learned this in we made a collection of palliative music called Diverse Sounds. It's 6 albums of music that's more geographically representational. People in hospices in Canada asked us to do this. They loved our music. They said, could you give us something for newcomers to Canada? And boy, did we learn a lot through this. We had focus groups and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I mean, you probably thought it was a bit of a small, innocent question, but Hugh, you opened up kind of the can of worms. It's like, what music do you use? So use what's preferential.
Okay.
Bev, it's Russ. Just quick, super quick. I'm going to share one screen.
Yep.
And because with your tip off, whoops.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly can't. I don't know if I can recommend it. Like there's so many of these on the market.
All I'm saying is that I
But look
did dig a
around.
little deeper, and there's
That's right.
boxes for Alzheimer's patients right up there.
Well, lots of
$129.
Yeah, lots of people are
An
trying
on-off button and a volume button, and that's it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you for the tip.
just make sure about the content, Russ.
Oh, you can put your own on.
Perfect. That's what you want.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, and I'll borrow from you guys. You
That's
said I
fine.
can get a lot of content off your website, right? Is that by subscription or is it free?
Well, I mean, if you want to use our actual music, you'd have to go onto our app, or you could digitally download it on iTunes for sure.
Yeah, okay, and you can purchase it there, like purchasing music. Well, that's fine, perfect. Yeah.
Or
no,
if you don't do digital, we still press CDs and DVDs because we do still find there's a lot of people that haven't digitized.
Yeah, and I can take that stuff
I've
and
got
put it on the box.
some gentlemen
Yeah.
sitting in the room
Thank you.
here, Russ.
Let's
and
go
Bev,
back to
who
you,
are
Ken.
anxious to get out and have
John.
lunch.
Go,
So-
John. Okay.
Yeah, and people have rides coming. Bev, I want to say thank you on behalf of the few online and the about 30 of us here in the room. You've certainly opened a window and demonstrated to us that there's a whole new aspect of music that a lot of us were probably not aware of. I'm a choral singer as well. And the men's chorus that I sing in has a song that we do, and I'm not going to sing it, but part of the lyrics go, what would I do without my music? What would I do without my song? What would I do without my music to make things right when everything seems wrong? But you've shown us as well, there's another aspect. When I watched your video of the gentleman walking, was it Mark? Walking with the music? I couldn't help but think of the times choral directors have asked us, now again, I'm talking a men's chorus, to move while we're singing. I'll just say it didn't work that well. Anyway, and I'll leave it at that. But thank you so much. Obviously that your passion and your care for the people you work with is very evident through your whole presentation. We thank you for that. Now, I'm told that our treasurer is going to be sending you a gift certificate, and the treasurer you can't see him, but I did. He just waved. He's in the back of the room there. Oh, a donation made in your name. So, yeah. Anyway.
That's great. Donation. Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
Okay. So, and thank you. So.
Thanks so much, everybody. Have a really Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you.
Happy New Year.
And Tim was going to probably